Hey Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful day. And this time with a quote by the first man who ever transplanted a heart. And it worked from dog to dog. It's Alexis Carrel. And he said, "Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor." What do you think about that?
It is a wonderful quote. It points to a challenging truth that many of us have discovered about the different forms of learning and growth that in the price of such learning and growth. One thing that stands out to me in my own experience is there are many things that I actually learned intellectually in books far before I actually learned them in a way that I actually integrated and understood them. This difference between sort of intellectual knowledge of language only versus embodied knowledge that reaches your intuition, that you can feel, and that kind of is integrated into your way of being in your real world decision making. And there's a big difference in this. And a part of it, in my opinion, has to do with the immense complexity of the real world. When you have something that is, say, intellectual knowledge, you can look at one variable and you can map it out quite well. And one example that I'll give, because it's relevant to my own journey, is in evaluating businesses and business models. So if you're going to find a business to buy, you may know that a higher gross margin is better than a lower gross margin. You may know that something that is asset light is better than something that is asset heavy. You may know that something that has good operating systems will be easier to run than something with no systems. You may know that a market that is growing is better than a market that is shrinking. You may know that a business with strong employees that are well trained, that are long term, is better than one without these things. You may know that a business with many growth opportunities or pricing opportunities can present low hanging fruits. You may know that this business fits your strengths and this business does not. You may see that this business is in this region that has certain economic factors in GDP per capita and growth rates, and this one is in a different one. And you have 20,000 other variables like this. And yet, the more variables you get, the more you recognize that, holy shit, you actually cannot run clean math with much of this. Or certainly you cannot run math that actually accounts for all of these variables to take into account, especially given that you're looking at one at a time. You're not looking at three at once. You're looking at this one versus the unknown opportunities that will come in the future. And so how do you make a decision with all of these factors? And if you're making the decision just off of intellectual knowledge, just off of a book you read, you're going to have these chunky biases that presuppose certain frameworks and comparisons that don't account for 99% of the context. And this is the difference between things that you learn in books, where you learn about one variable at a time, things are sequential, words are put one after another, after another, after another, after another. This is logic, this is language, this is the left brain, this is thinking, in one sense of the word thinking. But it's fundamentally limited in its ability to integrate and guide us in a complex multivariate world. And so embodied knowledge, on the other hand, is that which you learn somatically. And almost always you have learned the hard way, these lessons. And it can guide you in a sense of an intellectual or an intuitive gut decision that is far more powerful in integrating all of these factors and actually able to help you navigate and feel on the whole big picture, all these variables that you cannot turn into a math equation because there's 10,000 variables with totally different weights. Your intuition is far more capable once it is trained, but unfortunately, it can only be trained through real-world experience that often involves learning stuff the hard way. So this is one example of the ways that hard growth comes through pain. Our system, our embodied system, the deeper intuitive knowledge that can take into account many, many variables that can actually be leveraged in the real world. The way to train the system, the way to give it data, is a lot of times to learn lessons the hard way. And this is one example of growth through pain. That's one of many. What do you think about the growth the hard way and the price that needs to be paid?
Well, as you mentioned, the body keeps the score things you learned the hard way or you learned for yourself, you will never forget. The things like that come through book knowledge, like you said, is much easier to forget, and to really integrate it. You can learn from stories, but also from experiences yourself, and it takes pain to really have gain. It's like going to the gym and training for a round, and then no pain, no gain. In this essence, it's the essence: no pain, no gain. But also the analogy to the marble and the sculptor, like that man cannot remake himself without suffering, because he's the marble and also the sculptor, means that in order to really create the vision for your sculpture, do I pronounce it correctly? Sculpture.
Sculpture. Yes.
Okay. In order to really have this clarity of vision for your sculpture of yourself, you have to chip away stuff that doesn't belong there. And that's actually a really hard part of growing and of developing yourself into the sculpture you want to become. And I also believe this is the magic in the clarity of the vision. Because if you're clear about how it ought to look like, then it's much easier to know what to chip away. And it's often painful to chip the things away you have learned or experienced, or your habits that you have as automatisms and so on. And it's really hard to unlearn things that you once learned to fulfill a certain kind of purpose. And it's also a reference to the via negativa again, like putting things away that don't belong to the vision you have for yourself. What do you think about the comparison to via negativa?
Yeah, this came up in my mind when you were talking too. This way of the real world giving you the harsh feedback about your strengths, weaknesses, and limitations. I can say that speaking for myself, it kind of it's reminiscent of, I think it was a Warren Buffett saying, which is when the tide is high, like everybody's good, it lifts all boats. When the water recedes, you can tell who's swimming with their pants down,
Yeah.
or something. I butchered the quote, but it is the harsh realities are revealed in times of difficulty. You can have a delusion that you're amazing at everything when you're not actually challenged and tested. You can have this grandiosity of, I can figure out anything, I can learn anything instantly, I'm as good as anybody is at doing this and this and this and this and this, these unrelated activities and these different ways of thinking. And then when the rubber meets the road, when you're really tested with a hard challenge all at once, it shows you your limitations, it shows you your weaknesses. For example, before I entered a recent life challenge, I was young. I was maybe 24. I was living a very free life. I was very happy. My mind was very open, and I had a really good inner balance in spiritual way of being and control over my thoughts, and a real grace in how I navigated my inner world and by consequence, my relationships, my conversations, my way of being. And I had some story in my head that this is because of some wisdom. This is because I have learned this and that, and I've integrated this and that. And to some extent, this is true. I did spend a lot of time examining my own mind, a lot of time in contemplation and meditation and this and that. But it was also true that it's way easier to have this easygoing, free-flowing way of being in an easy phase of life. And it revealed to me when I entered into great challenge and great trials and immense suffering and pain and struggle, and where I was really getting my ass kicked by the world, that holy shit, this free-flowing, wise way of being that I imagined that I just obtained and had in hand permanently because I'd learned something, Now I'm not that way. I'm acting way worse than I was. I'm being my worst self. And this humbled me immensely because it showed me all these limitations that I honestly was not aware that I still had. All of these ways that my ego or these different parts of me would emerge and react and kind of take over my system, and cause me to act or react in counterproductive ways that intellectually I knew better. When I was truly pushed beyond my limits, I recognized that, wow, I am not as all-powerful, omniscient, and invincible as I thought I was. This is really this way of getting your ass kicked by suffering in the real world kind of chips away your delusions about your own self and your own invincibility. And certainly it did for me, which was painful to learn about myself, because it was this losing something that I thought I wasn't going to lose. And in fact, it was far less stable and static and far more dynamic and flowing and ever changing than I had anticipated. So this is one example of getting the black and white thinking chipped away by hard real life experience. How about you? Have you experienced any via negativa, things that were taken away in the sculpting process that by this pain and struggle?
Yeah, man. Like as you said, if you confront yourself with a reality in a more difficult phase of life and get your ass kicked, then it hurts. And
Yeah.
it's also to be disillusioned, to be taken away an illusion you had about yourself, that, oh, I'm so wise, I'm so relaxed, and I have like the ability to keep everything at bay and be in perfect balance all the time.
Yeah.
Also this illusion, when it shit hits the fan and suddenly you see, oh, there are things that I don't have in control. There are times in my life where I don't have all the control over my thoughts and over my way of being. So also this disillusionment process, which takes away your illusions you had, is also a painful way to grow. Also, it sculpts you to the next better version of the sculptor that you are, because they're falling something away which obviously was not true, or was not meant to be there, or was not helpful in evolving yourself, because as it goes, the illusion is not reality. But this being disillusioned, well then hits to, you waking up to reality, or at least you letting go of the illusion that held you down. And again, riffing on the sculpture metaphor, there's I guess a saying from Michelangelo where he once got asked, "Oh, how did you create David, this purely magnificent work of art with this anatomically correctness and so on? How did you create it?" And he just said, "Oh, it was easy. I had a block of marble and I chipped away everything that was not David." And yeah, it's just like the via negativa approach in terms of putting the things away that don't belong there, putting the things away, chipping the things away that don't fit into the vision you have for the sculpture you want to create. And it is a tedious process of all the way hard work, chipping away, taking a step back, and taking a look and comparing it to your vision again. And from the phase of, oh, this looks shit, to the phase of, wow, that's great, there's always a phase of, okay, we have to work it through. We have to really put in the work. We have to put in the time and not be not be upset about that it takes time, that you have to have patience, that you don't get the results straight away, because good things take time. If you plant a seed and it grows and it doesn't bear fruit instantly. You just have to put in the nutrition, the sunlight, the care, the right environment, and then you can have patience, and after that you can see the tree bear fruit. And yeah, that's with life. Good things take time, but you can destroy good things very easily. Just like that. There's a basic asymmetry in there. But
The
so,
patience you point to is so resonant on the journey of growth. I find myself, and I always have for ever since I've kind of been thinking of the way of orienting myself toward growth. I've been completely impatient. There's constant frustration of not yet being where I would like to be, not yet being immune to this or that temptation, not yet being impeccable in my actions or my speech or my wisdom or my clarity of mind. It's in some sense this seeing the potential of this sculpture, but yet frustratingly recognizing how far sometimes I seem to be from that can be a little bit of a disillusionment in itself, or a little bit of a a struggle in itself. I think also on this concept of post-traumatic growth is resonant in this discussion about pain and growth, and it's in my view aided by our mindset around this pain. And
definitely.
for me, it's not incredibly difficult to feel how the pain of an intense leg workout is leading to my growth, and thereby to feel the satisfaction of this growth in the midst of this pain, because it's so clear. I've been doing physical training for so long. I understand the cause and effect. I've been able to retrain this pain as good. I've been able to feel the satisfaction within the activity itself, and this is a good place to land as it relates to making the leaning into the effort sustainable and tolerable. But where I find it far more difficult in my life, where I endure pain and my instinctive reaction is not to embrace the potential for growth, but rather to resist and fight against it, is these circumstances in our life where the pain and the struggle itself has such a negative effect on our energy that we no longer can show up in the way that we would like to show up in that circumstance. We must cope not only with the pain that we endure, but the frustration of seeing ourselves be less than what we imagine we could be in that circumstance. And at the time, a lot of times, this is dealt with, or this is my response is resistance. My response is frustration. My response is, why? This isn't how I'm supposed to be. This isn't how I know I can be. This isn't this. This isn't that. This isn't right. I'm not being this. I'm not being that. And this self-criticism, this self-frustration is instinctive in these moments when I'm brought to my knees, when I'm humbled to see that I am not my best self in this, because I am getting my ass kicked and the momentum is so negative. The winds are so in my face that just to be okay is just to act. Just to be 8 out of 10 effective today is my ceiling. And I've run into this over and over and over, and it took me so long. And I still oftentimes stumble in my mindset in this. And in this sense of this frustration that, quote, I should be much better than I am right now. This is, for me, one of the hardest parts of growth, is that when we're really so deep in the struggle, when we're really so deep in the just getting bathed in negative energy by the universe because of the challenge that we've undertaken, or because of the storms and slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that await us all and that are a part of all of our journeys. In these worst storms, in these times when truly we are experiencing this suffering that leads to growth, and this ultimate source of deep inner transformation that is very important on our journey, very essential in many ways to realizing our potential and to becoming who we would like to become. Along this, the one of the hardest things to cope with is witnessing our own imperfections along the way, witnessing the cause and effect within our own mind, how we are stumbling in confusion and lack of clarity as an effect of some of these things, and how that causes us to make decisions that are not as good as they could be, to have conversations where we are not as clear and as balanced and as centered and as aware as we could be. This witnessing of our own stumbling around is hard to accept. It is hard to look at. It is hard to be with and to kind of be in harmony with along the way at a lot of times. It seems like it shouldn't be this way. It seems like we shouldn't be this way. But in fact, this is an inevitable effect of some of the hardest things that we will go through. When we're in a period of deep grief, for example, we're not going to be a bubbly center of joy for all those around us, lest we not process it well and end up causing ourselves to hold on to an unprocessed poison within our hearts. If we do not allow ourselves to go through these phases, or if we try to struggle against them, it doesn't actually lead to healthier outcomes. In fact, we will go through a ton of dynamic changes if we take a challenging path, and that is an inevitable aspect of these challenging paths. This is, for me, one of the hardest things to navigate is understanding, yes, we want to orient ourselves as wisely as we can, as smoothly as we can, during these challenging valleys, these dark nights along our way. But in fact, we have, and we will be shown over and over again, no matter how hard we try, our limitations along the way. We will be disillusioned by the inevitable effects of the challenges within our own mind and within our own way of being, and that is a challenging part of growth, and it's an inevitable humbling that the path of growth will bring to us, and perhaps in the end, this too is a grace, this too is a gift, this too is an aspect of what ultimately will mature us psychologically and spiritually in other ways. But whew, that shit can hurt.
Oh yeah, definitely that shit can hurt. And it's a good heuristics you pointed out. It's what if is what if that what is happening is a gift? Try to think about it as a gift. What if? And then that's a completely powerful reframe of the situation, however dire it is. A reframe for it to focus yourself on how it may be useful to your future self. What if it's a gift? And then the growth mindset can like take roots. And you say to yourself, okay, I experienced that and it's only temporary and it will pass. And what can I learn out of it? How can I stay in this pain long enough to reflect upon it, to derive some principles from it or a principle so that I can next time make a better decision maybe, so that the situation will be circumnavigated, so that it doesn't occur and lead to this point. So all the things can be a gift if we use the pain and reflect upon it, so that we gain some valuable lesson from it. And also, like everything you do then after that, and however you will decide, you will cast votes for your future selves. And there are many possibilities of like a facet of possible future selves, of possible outcomes of the sculpture you are creating. And you will cast votes with your decisions. Whatever you do, however you decide, will lead to certain kinds of outcomes, because there is cause and effect. And so this raises the awareness and the possibility, the potential for growth. If you ask yourself, what if this is a gift? How can I use this to become better or less worse?
And what will this prepare us for that we do not yet know? Think about the day 6 years ago when you dropped a glass on the ground or a plate on the ground and created this huge mess all over your kitchen. You were like, mother. Think about if that delayed you 5 minutes, and if you had left 5 minutes earlier, you could have gotten in a car accident and died. How much do we not know about how the events in our life take us on a slightly different path that could make all the difference? How much do I know if what the cause and effects were of my worst situations, my worst pains, my worst sufferings, in the sense of maybe the worst romantic relationship I was ever in, where I experienced deep, deep suffering for a long time and felt incredibly trapped and incredibly tormented by the situation. Maybe that was what prevented me ultimately from getting in the wrong marriage and from having a situation that was not bad for 2 years, but bad for 50 years. What if the worst business decisions I've ever made, where I've taken really hard, painful L's that were super humbling? Maybe that is what ultimately will give me the toolkit I need for some later success that will be an order of magnitude greater, or that will be deeply aligned with my purpose in a way that is ultimately satisfying and enables me to live the fullest possible life and to utilize my experience or the place that I am and the gifts that I've been given. This way of the future being completely opaque to us actually enables us to tap into a spirit of curiosity about the pains and the difficulties that we go through. Because really, we do not know what is before us. We really do not know the ways that the hardest things that we've ever gone through are actually a gift. And I do believe that they probably are, like the hardest things I've ever been through are a gift for me. Like I really do see that with my path, even though I have no direct knowledge of the exact ways that they have prepared me for what lies in store. But I do think that it is true. Like I sincerely do believe that. And this thought process of this pain is not a problem. This suffering is not a problem. Even the ways that this suffering is causing me to be frustrated with myself is not a problem. These things, these difficulties that we've gone through, these tribulations, this suffering, this is all a part of our destiny. This is all a part of our fate. This is all a part of our path. And all of these things, when we look at the hardest things that have happened to us, they actually have helped us. They actually have taught us. They actually have grown us. We can see this in several examples. And of course, the ones that we are in now, we don't know the ways that this will happen. We can't actually see the effect of this cause yet. The future is opaque. We are looking into a dense fog beyond which anything might await us. There could be that the hardest things in our life have prepared us for the intense disruptions that the world is about to experience from the advent of these insanely powerful technologies. Maybe to navigate these things, we must be very nimble. And in order to be very nimble and adaptable, we have to have gone through certain degrees of struggle, challenges, and forced pivots in the past. Who knows? I don't. But I do think that having this mindset about this is probably a gift for me in the end. This is probably preparing me for something that I do not yet know, that I do not yet see. But this has been prescribed for me by the universal nature. This difficulty, this challenge, this undertaking, whatever I'm going through. This is a part of my path, and it probably is here for a reason. These things are right there to be alchemized for us, and our mindsets about these things can be the difference between post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic growth. If we are caught in these negative cycles of resistance, which happens to us all, by the way, it's not something that we can avoid. It's not something that we will never enter. I feel resistance all the time, and in fact, a lot recently, I've experienced this mindset of pushing away and rejecting reality and disagreeing with reality. It's futile, but it happens and we do it. But if we get instead, if we can reframe this instinct to resist, this instinct to push away, this instinct to say no and to reject, and we can say that, yes, I'm here. Yes, this is the way that I'm feeling. Yes, this is the cause and effect. Yes, this is the circumstance. No, this is not what I anticipated. No, this is not what I would prefer. No, this is not comfortable. No, this is not fun or pleasant. But I still have the power to have a mindset of embracing this. I still have the power to agree and flow and bring myself into harmony with a difficult reality that I did not choose. This is what can give us the power to alchemize these things. This is what can give us the power to integrate this and to receive the gift that we did not want, to receive and accept and integrate the growth that can come from, and that can only come from, incredible difficulty in our life. And this mindset of growth, this mindset of saying yes to the pain, this mindset of saying yes to the suffering, this mindset of saying yes to being humbled and getting our ass kicked and getting brought to our knees and having these dark nights. This is what can give us the power to alchemize these, to integrate them, and to become way more than we ever could have been without enduring such pain. Any closing thoughts from you, my man, on the power and how we can embrace this and how to respond in a wise way to these storms that will inevitably pass in our lives?
It definitely seems to be the case that we can learn much more if we just stay humble and refuse to prematurely judge a situation by the time we are just myopically within the situation and have no detachment from it yet. And if we just refuse to judge prematurely, stay humble, we have the probability to learn much more and to raise the probability, actually, because it's dynamic, raise the probability of this turning out to be a gift, because we learn something from it, because we use the pain to transform ourselves, to really put in the reps and grow in strength, psychologically, mentally, and physically, and also have better judgment from it, and therefore be more wise and live a more fulfilled life where we ourselves can grow and help others grow as well.
Wonderful thoughts, man. May we grow. May we embrace the painful chiseling of the sculpture, and may we continue to bear adversity and but yet integrate it and alchemize it into becoming more than we were on the other side. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, my friend. These are very good intentions and reframes for the coming week for me. I hope to say yes to it all.
Thank you very much. May we chip away what does not belong to us and therefore create a clear vision of what we want to sculpt. And have a great week, and appreciate you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Look forward to the next one.
Bye.